Chapter 41. After using some vulgar tactics to get rid of Kai Yan, the troublesome police flower, Yang Chen arrived at the parking area without a hitch. He started the car and looked at the time on the dashboard. It was almost 1 a.m. Afraid of not having enough time to do intimate things with Rose, he fiercely stepped on the accelerator, and the M3 shot towards the heart of the city like a rocket. At the same time, the three divisions of police cars led by Kai Yan felt that something wasn't right. After a policeman picked up a phone call, he hurriedly ran to Kai Yan, who was deep in thought. Bureau chief, something big happened. Kai Yan was gloomy about how the criminal they were waiting for was not found yet, and turned around in a bad mood. What happened? She asked. The policeman quickly said, we just received an insider's report. A mysterious person intruded the Chen residence alone tonight, then killed Chen Dehai and a large number of his subordinates. The Chen residence has now changed its master, and it is one of the late Chen Dehai's assistants, Zhang Hu. That mysterious person's whereabout is unknown. Kai Yan's dense and fine eyebrows creased, her heart full of astonishment. No wonder Chen Dehai still hasn't left to participate in tonight's drug deal, he has actually died. The other policemen were quite happy, and one said, Bureau chief, this is a good thing, it's about time that Chen Dehai received the retribution he deserves. What do you guys know? Kai Yan felt angry and berated. Why don't you guys think about it? What kind of person is able to single-handedly intrude the Chen residences, kill Chen Dehai, then withdraw alone? Someone like that appeared in Shanghai. Are you guys not the slightest bit worried? All the policemen looked at each other in dismay. Someone like that was truly more scary than Chen Dehai. Kai Yan pondered for a moment and said, hurry up and contact the insider, investigate the cause of the story as much as possible. It would be best to find out who this mysterious person is, and at the very least we must find out his appearance and characteristics. Also, the surveillance in this area must not slacken just because Chen Dehai is dead. Since Chen Dehai died, Zhang Hu, who succeeded his position, will definitely need to purge the old stubborn ones by blood. We must make sure that there will be no civilian casualties. Yes. Bureau chief. After giving out a series of commands, Kai Yan glanced towards the direction Yang Chen left. Her cold and beautiful face revealed a little stubbornness, and she mumbled to herself, Yang Chen, I will definitely find out your bottom line. When he arrived at Rose Bar, human voices still emanated from within. Being able to drink wine and have fun from night till dawn was to be expected of Bar Street. Yang Chen called out to the happy and giggling little Zhao, then urgently ran into the hallway at the back of the bar, and on the path, all the bodyguards respectfully greeted him. Although Yang Chen didn't mention it, everybody was long aware that the life of their president was saved by this man who seemed ordinary. After pushing open the beautiful door to Rose's room, Yang Chen did not find her in the room. Inside the spacious and cozy room, only the side table's light was switched on. Turning his head, he discovered that a seductive figure was sitting by the swimming pool outside the room. Rose's swimming pool was formed by using large pieces of cobblestone. At that moment Rose wore a white cotton gauze nightgown, and sat on the cobblestone by the swimming pool. A pair of pure white, flawless, smooth and exquisite little feet full of luster created ripples to the mirror image of the starlight in the water. In the quiet courtyard, several Yulon magnolia flowers swayed with the wind on the tree branches, bringing with it threads of cool and natural fragrance. Among the clouds a shy smile was shown by the crescent moon, shooting its plain and tranquil moonlight onto Rose's charming yet slightly indifferent pretty face. The moonlight also added some innocence to her, as if she was Chang'e who fell from the palace in the moon to the secular world, yet also like a goddess in a white dress from ancient Greek mythology. Chang'e is the moon goddess in Chinese mythology. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Rose slowly turned her head over. She did not open her mouth to speak, and only revealed a peaceful smile to Yang Chen. There's an ancient saying, looking back with a smile brings 100 times the charm, while the ladies of the three palaces are all colorless, describing a fox spirit of a concubine like Daji. Yang Chen didn't find Rose to be like Daji, because right now her smile was even purer, as if she was a wife who had missed her husband, and seeing that her husband returned home safely, she revealed a happy smile. The original poem is from the Tang dynasty period about a concubine named Yang Guifei, one of the four great beauties of ancient China. Original poem has 6 palaces instead of 3. Daji is unrelated to the poem, calling out the author for his mistake. Daji is the favorite concubine of a king during the Shang dynasty, often portrayed as a wicked fox spirit. This woman is always able to give me warmth and comfort on a spiritual level. Only today did I finally discover that I'm truly unable to leave her. Stripping off his socks and pants, Yang Chen slowly walked to Rose, sat on the cobblestone by her side, dipped his legs into the cool water, and exhaled deeply. Thereafter he felt his whole body loosen up comfortably. Only now did Rose open her mouth, and with a slightly mischievous smile she said, "If you still didn't come, I would have gone to sleep. If you were asleep I could still wake you up, and if you slept when I asked you to wait for me, then I would also have to spank that butt of yours." Yang Chen grabbed onto Rose's soft and fragrant shoulders, allowing her to comfortably lean on his chest. He conveniently rubbed onto the soft flesh on her chest, provoking the beautiful woman to pout coquettishly. "You're such a tyrant," Rose winked. "Red Thorn Society's president getting spanked on the butt by a man. If this gets out, how am I going to command my subordinates, my many brothers and sisters? Then we have to see who is the one spanking." Yang Chen kissed Rose's fragrant hair. It smelled great, so he smiled and asked, "You changed your perfume? Who would spray perfume on their heads?" Rose straightened her body, and rolled her eyes at Yang Chen. "Do you like this young lady's body fragrance and shampoo's fragrance mixed together?" Yang Chen vaguely smiled and said, "I do like it, but you were slightly wrong on one point, you're no longer a young lady." Rose's pretty face turned red. "Then what am I? Considered a young married woman." "A young married woman who is not married." Rose playfully blinked her eyes. Yang Chen was instantly speechless. This was considered his guilt towards Rose, and something that was difficult to talk about. He smiled and said embarrassed, "This, Rose my darling, can we change topics?" "Look at your expression," Rose chuckled then said, "I'm just teasing you for fun, it's your fault for making me wait so long, it has been nearly 4 hours. Yang Chen gloomily said, "Hey, my darling Rose, I went from my house to Chen Dehai's house, then came here as soon as I was done. The route was simple, but I didn't stop by my home in between, I'm already pretty quick." "What was the result?" Rose asked in a relaxed manner, as if slaughtering an underworld boss in his stronghold was a trivial matter. Yang Chen didn't waste any more time, and made a simple narration of the events that took place. At the end he said, "In brief, right now Chen Dehai's forces will be cleaned up by that Zhang Hu. You will get in touch with Zhang Hu, and have him listen to your arrangements." Rose nodded without the slightest bit of surprise. "I really didn't expect that Zhang Hu had some brains. In the past I saw him dim-wittedly following Chen Dehai's side. I didn't expect to err in my judgment. He is dim-witted, otherwise he wouldn't choose Chen Dehai as his boss." Yang Chen did not deny it. Rose suddenly sighed with remorse. "No matter how silly he is, he cannot compare with me, who willingly allows myself to be a person's mistress, and even the type that waits deep into the night, until I'm about to sleep." Seeing this little vixen reveal a "I'm pitiful" expression, Yang Chen could only feel a fire sprouting ferociously from his dantian. In one move he grabbed and hugged Rose's extremely flexible waist, then lowered his head to kiss her flawless face, and smiled, "My darling Rose, you're really good at increasing appeal. With this expression aren't you scared your husband I will go crazy?" "What kind of crazy, hubby?" Rose's exhaled air smelled like orchids, as she asked with a low coquettish voice. Yang Chen gave a strange smile, and suddenly moved with force. Their bodies entered the swimming pool in an instant. The two immediately stuck together, and shared a hot kiss. Among the splashing waters, murmuring was heard from time to time. "Rose, let's do it in the water." "Woo, don't." "What? Okay. Oh, good, very obedient." I said, "Woo. I know you want it, saying it once is enough, hee hee." Woo, woo, woo. Chapter 42. When the first light of dawn shined its way into Rose's huge bedroom, Yang Chen got off the bed in great spirits, put on his clothes and prepared to leave. Drowsy-eyed Rose pouted with dissatisfaction, and without a shred of charisma befitting an underworld boss, just like an ordinary girl, she spoke with remorse. "I told you not to do it in the water yesterday, now I feel water swollen, edema down there." TL, in Chinese the characters for water and swollen put together means edema. Note, edema, a condition characterized by an excess of watery fluid collecting in the cavities or tissues of the body. Yang Chen looked conflicted, doing it in the water so it's water swollen, edema. Darling Rose, how can it be that you don't have the slightest bit of common medical knowledge? That's not what water swollen, edema, means. I don't care, you have no conscience. Rose threw a pillow at Yang Chen. Yang Chen laughed in embarrassment, and said, it's alright, when you practice more in the future you'll gain resistance to it. Practice makes perfect, right? Rose made a spitting impression, and she didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. What practice makes perfect, utter nonsense. I really don't know how I fell in love with a hoodlum like you whose mouth has no filter. After a brief moment of poking fun at one another, Yang Chen remembered that he still needed to return home to change clothes and go to work. So after rubbing Rose's well-developed butt, he left the bar in a hurry. When he returned to the villa at Dragon Garden, it was precisely breakfast time. Wang Ma, who was wearing an apron, was in the process of bringing breakfast out of the kitchen. Seeing that Yang Chen returned home, Wang Ma was stunned for a moment, then revealed a caring expression as she asked, Young master, where did you go last night? Miss and I were worried. The moment Wang Ma said that, Lin Ruoxi, who was eating congee by the table, frowned, and coldly said, I wasn't worried. Upon seeing yet another cold expression, as if someone owed her money, Yang Chen did not mind. He sat down, picked up the ladle, filled his bowl with congee and happily ate it. The congee slid down smoothly, dragging with it a taste of coriander. Wang Ma, how do you make it so delicious even though it's just congee? Wang Ma happily laughed and said, if young master likes it please eat more. She then returned to the kitchen to do her chores. After finishing the whole bowl of congee with 2 big gulps, Yang Chen moved to pick up the ladle intending to refill the bowl, but even before he picked up the ladle, he saw Lin Ruoxi swiftly shift the big pot of congee to her side, giving the impression of not letting him have another sip. Yang Chen was hurt. He sourly laughed and said, my good wife Ruoxi, it can't be that you aren't even willing to let your husband eat congee in the morning, right? You've already ate 2 mouthfuls, also, you're not allowed to call me in such a disgusting way. Lin Ruoxi put the pot of congee by her side, then lowered her head and continued eating. Do you need to go that far for just a small bowl of congee? Muttered Yang Chen. Then he suddenly thought of something, laughed and asked, Ruoxi, could it be that you're angry because I didn't return home? Lin Ruoxi didn't even raise her head as she coldly said, I'm not interested in your trivial affairs. Then why won't you let me eat the congee? Yang Chen was bewildered. Wang Ma cooked this for me, you settle your own food. Yang Chen hesitated for a while, and he felt that forcefully snatching the congee to eat would be excessive. Remembering that he promised all his female colleagues that he would bring breakfast, he didn't continue teasing her. Yang Chen went upstairs to change his clothes, then prepared to leave home. When Wang Ma saw Yang Chen about to leave, she curiously asked, why not eat a little more, young master? There's still some steamed buns left. Oh, I have some things to take care of this morning, I'll just eat out. Yang Chen glanced at the large pot of coriander congee with reluctance, but still left in the end. Wang Ma sighed, walked to Lin Ruoxi's side and heartfully said, Miss, young master is a good person. The 2 of you, man and wife, should live harmoniously, don't be so opposing of young master anymore. Lin Ruoxi's hands stopped, and she plainly said, don't worry anymore Wang Ma, if he wants to eat out, then let him eat out, as he pleases. He's a man after all, and when they're young they're more playful. Miss, if you just treat young master a little better, how can those women outside compare with Miss? When that happens, young master won't stay out for a whole night anymore. Wang Ma persuaded patiently. It seemed as if Lin Ruoxi could listen no more. She stood up and put down the chopsticks. Wang Ma, I'm full, I'm going to work. Seeing how Lin Ruoxi was no longer willing to speak about it, Wang Ma knew the short-tempered miss had grown impatient, and could only sigh. Then she began clearing the table. The episode that morning did not affect Yang Chen's mood. He listened to the morning news while driving to West Region's market. He parked nearby, then moved to where his lamb skewer stall used to be, and began purchasing various kinds of breakfast. Those who worked as peddlers were naturally familiar with the many kinds of stalls for breakfast. Quite a number of them were also friends with Yang Chen, so when they saw Yang Chen, they happily greeted him and also gave him extra food on top of what he ordered for free. Very quickly, Yang Chen carried bags of food to the car, but it was a pity he didn't see old Li's stall. Old Li was most likely still unaware of last night's happenings. Thinking of old Li, Yang Chen felt the need to let Zhang Hu take note not to treat the little peddlers here unfairly. After all, during this half a year all of them had good relations with him. Yang Chen managed to reach Yulei International without being late. When he left the elevator and entered the large public relations department's office, immediately there were two well-dressed and pretty female colleagues that welcomed him, happily laughing. "Why did Big Brother Yang only arrive now? Us sisters have all been hungry." Apparently Zhao Hongyan did inform the others about Yang Chen taking up the responsibility of bringing breakfast. Yang Chen raised the two large bags of food in his hands. "The amount of food needed is quite high, next time I'll go buy breakfast earlier." While speaking, Yang Chen walked over to his own office desk. Because his table only had a computer and nothing else, it was a suitable location to place the food. The tens of youthful and attractive female colleagues in the office immediately crowded around, chirping, and lively beyond compare. Seeing Yang Chen's table full of glittering foods like steamed stuffed buns, mandarin rolls, steamed buns, xiaobing, youtiao, fried glutinous rice dough cakes, fried dumplings, and even soup-filled buns, they blanked out for a moment, then one by one turned towards Yang Chen with looks of adoration. "Yang Chen, you're too amazing, how did you manage to buy so much, and still manage to avoid bringing the heavy types?" Round-faced Zhang Kai quickly grabbed a soup-filled bun, took a bite with that little mouth, and commended. "It can't be that you're a specialist at buying breakfast, right? So professional. How is it that there is both milk and soy milk, and the soy milk you bought even has sweetened and unsweetened types?" Zhao Hongyan also didn't expect Yang Chen to be so professional. This was much more abundant than what they had before. Seeing all his lady colleagues happily praising him, a certain person named Yang felt gratified and proud at the same time, totally forgetting that his original job application was for PR, and not a breakfast gopher. "Everybody, please eat whatever you like. If there's something you particularly like, please let me know, I'll buy more of it the next time." Yang Chen was proud of himself, and also didn't forget to boast and flatter. "When doing something, we might as well do it seriously, satisfying the masses' requirements in life. This sort of thing is something a person like me who has a great character happily does. To think of the time I was nearly able to put on the red neckscarf." Chapter 43. After Yang Chen's series of words brought forth laughter from the female colleagues again, without any semblance of a virtuous lady, one short-haired pretty girl who was holding a fried dumpling walked up to him and coyly said, "Big Brother Yang, come closer, there's something I want to say to you." Yang Chen moved closer to hear what she had to say, yet that pretty girl kissed his cheeks with a mua, then with her face beet red she smiled and said, "This is your reward." Like he was suddenly on cloud nine, Yang Chen felt that the world was great. Yulei International was indeed heaven for men. It was only his second day, yet there was already a pretty girl offering kisses. Just a single breakfast had such an effect, so if he brought breakfast every day, would his life of gender happiness still be far away? Yang Chen touched the moist kiss mark on his face, and laughed. "Little sister, that was insincere of you, there was still oil on your mouth when you kissed me, if I can't clean it off, you'll have to kiss the oil back." The short-haired sister pretended to be angry as she said, "HMPH, calling you big brother is already very nice of me, among the sisters here who is younger than you. Don't gain an inch and ask for a mile. Hee, just joking." Only now did Yang Chen remember he was only 23 this year. In Huaxia quite a number of university students graduated at 24. Indeed he could only be considered a little brother, and not big brother. After the crowd of female colleagues grabbed what they liked, they happily returned to their seats and enjoyed the food while working, and from time to time several bold sisters would release electric eyes at Yang Chen, causing Yang Chen to feel like his saliva glands increased production by no small amount. He had no choice but to continuously stuff his mouth with the ladies' leftovers, raking in his breakfast with big gulps. Right at this point of time, Yang Chen thought of something, turned his head towards a corner, and saw his one and only male colleague in the office. The white and tender-looking brother Chen Bo was sitting there tapping onto his keyboard. Remembering that he did not seem to come take breakfast, Yang Chen picked up 2 steamed stuffed buns and walked over. Chen Bo, have you eaten breakfast? Chen Bo nervously turned his body. No, not yet. Then why didn't you come to take your breakfast? Didn't you hear that from here on out I'm taking up the duty of providing breakfast? Yang Chen smiled as he handed over the plastic bag to Chen Bo. Here, if breakfast is not eaten one would not have enough energy to work, so if you need to take more come over to my cubicle, there's a lot left. Chen Bo accepted the food with gratitude, but only removed 1 steamed stuffed bun from the plastic bag, and returned the other to Yang Chen. He had an awkward expression as he murmured, my appetite is small, 1 is enough to fill me up. Yang Chen nearly choked. A man stood in front of Yang Chen and weakly said that he had a small appetite, and couldn't even finish 2 steamed stuffed buns. It gave him the feeling of not knowing whether to laugh or to cry. Returning to his seat, the moment he turned on the computer, he noticed Lu Mingyu, who was in a light purple dress, gracefully walking to his side. Today, on top of her lovely purplish-red hair dye there was a rose-colored hair. With his experience, Yang Chen was able to determine that this woman could make all kinds of hardcore movements on the bed. Lu Mingyu wouldn't have thought such vile ideas were in Yang Chen's mind. She carefully glanced at Chen Bo for a moment, then said, Little Yang, in the future if you are free please take care of little Chen more. That child usually speaks very little, and is pretty lonely. We have all been worried for him, but after all we are all ladies, and we can't truly treat him as a sister. It appeared that Lu Mingyu had a good heart and showed care for her colleagues in the office. Yang Chen naturally wouldn't mind a little errand such as this, and nodded, anyway, I'm just buying breakfast and doing little errands. Something like caring for my colleagues, and taking care of my fellow male is a must. Lu Mingyu's pursed lips turned into a smile. I heard others speak of how much of a great talent you are, but from how I see it you just have a slick tongue. Zhao Hongyan, who sat the closest, turned around. She gave Lu Mingyu a profound look, tenderly laughed and said, Big sis Mingyu, why don't you ask Yang Chen if he has a girlfriend? I think the 2 of you are pretty compatible. Yang Chen at that moment was staring right at the 2 lumps of vibrating meatballs on Lu Mingyu's chest without even blinking, and hearing those words, he couldn't help but have a regretful tone as he said, About this, have I never mentioned it? I'm already married. You're married. Zhao Hongyan was stunned, then followed with disbelief as she said, I really can't tell, with your lecherous looks, and making moves without permission, a girl is actually willing to marry you. Yang Chen was unhappy, and with a righteous and majestic face he said, How have I been lecherous? I'm quite the upright person. Big sis Hongyan, you mustn't speak falsely. Earlier you kept staring at Big sis Mingyu's boobs, do you think we didn't know? Zhao Hongyan rolled her eyes. Lu Mingyu also didn't feel awkward. She covered her mouth and laughed. Hongyan, you shouldn't poke at him anymore. If this spreads to his wife, perhaps he would have to kneel on a washboard to pay for his mistakes. With that said, she magnanimously walked off. In his heart, Yang Chen muttered, so they're all a bunch of vixens, and could see everything. They just kept quiet about it. But since he had already been seen through, there was no need to be sneaky anymore. He stared at Lu Mingyu's rear view as she walked, and that gracefully swaying butt, while swallowing his saliva. Zhao Hongyan was speechless towards Yang Chen's bluntness, then followed with a laugh and said, Yang Chen, I want to tell you a secret. What secret? Yang Chen could tell that there was something indirectly implied from those words, and couldn't help but move closer to ask. Actually, Big sis Mingyu's butt may be outstanding, but Zhang Kai's butt is the softest. It is very comfortable to touch. If you have the chance you should try it. Zhao Hongyan's coquettish eyes turned into slits as she said, I've touched all of their butts before, you know. Yang Chen was incredibly envious. This woman was truly open and bold. Perhaps it was because they've stayed in this place, Yulei International, where men are rare for far too long, and their natural hunger and thirst welled up. Revealing a playful smile, he asked, then how does your butt compare to Zhang Kai's? Zhao Hongyan originally intended to just tantalize Yang Chen, but suddenly being asked such a question, she stuttered and was unable to speak. If she said she was inferior to Zhang Kai, then as a woman who was confident in her looks, she would feel dissatisfied. But if she said she was superior to Zhang Kai, then she would seem too arrogant and complacent, and a flip-flopper. A pair of vivid eyes stared at Yang Chen. Are you very curious? After you touch Zhang Kai's, I will let you touch mine, then you can just compare it yourself, right? It's a deal. Yang Chen laughed. Pitiful Zhang Kai, she obviously doesn't know that her butt has turned into a gambling platform for this pair of heartless man and woman. Zhao Hongyan wasn't shy about this either. With her eyebrows raised, she flirtatiously laughed. If you have the ability to make all our sisters let you touch them once, that would be regarded as our PR department's welfare for our rare male colleagues. These words made Yang Chen's mood fantastic, and although in the last few years he had relationships with a number of ladies, but those were times of the past. When thinking about it now, it was also merely a vent for physical needs. As of present, the excitement brought to him just by saying a few words to the ladies in the office was unprecedented. During the morning, working was exactly as how Yang Chen envisioned. Nobody bothered him. He turned on the computer and went straight to the internet to play some games, like Gold Miner, Pokémon and such. He had great fun. Occasionally there would be several pretty girls coming over to ask him some foreign language questions, and Yang Chen managed to easily answer them quickly without any burden on his brain. When it was nearly 12 p.m., Zhang Kai and Lu Mingyu walked over as a pair, and when Zhao Hongyan noticed them coming over, she tidied up her things and got up. Zhang Kai saw the familiar concentration game on the monitor, chuckled and said, Yang Chen, Big Sis Hongyan said you came here to idle about, seems like she was spot on. Yang Chen licked his dry lips, rubbed his stomach, and then raised his head to ask, are you guys about to go for lunch? Yep, right at the company's dining hall, are you coming with us? Lu Mingyu asked. Yang Chen may have devoured 7 or 8 steamed stuffed buns, 5 sticks of youtiao and 2 packs of soy milk, but doing something with high difficulty like playing games was the most tiring thing, so he was still a little hungry. He stood up, and without the slightest bit of shame he said, of course, I have to go with you. Working is so exhausting, I must reward myself well. The 3 ladies immediately rolled their eyes at him at the same time. If you like this video, please share, like, comment and subscribe, and don't forget to click notification bell so that you will be updated. Thank you. Novel Whisper, ciao.